All right. Good morning. Good evening. Good night. Layer1Live, Monday, August 24th. It's a great day.
Boom.
It's a
Yeah,
great
we're
day. What's
we're
going on?
back at it. Back at it. Yeah, I mean, what's going on? There's lots of things are going on in crypto. It's like crypto never sleeps and it moves quickly. So we definitely have a packed episode for today. How about you, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I was on the boat yesterday, so I got a little
Ooh.
tan. I was trying to catch some king mackerel. Didn't get a bite at all, unfortunately. But I had a good time on the water. But it's another week of crypto, man. Last week was so busy that it really feels like this week. Even though there's some news, it's like, damn, dude. There's no protocol coming out every 3-5 days. No new governance token. Although we'll talk on a couple that are coming out. We've got some early morning lads here, or early afternoon lads here. We got Brandon, we got Scott, we got Sahil, and Weedminer in the chat. What's going on, fellas? We appreciate you showing up early for us. We've got a packed episode today. We're gonna talk some lads news, of course. Some big updates coming for lads. We've got the 1 inch token launch. The Mooniswap guys who kind of forked off Uniswap to make their own exchange, and now an automated market pool, and now they're gonna launch their own token. So kind of front running Uni on that front. We've got BlockFi raising 50 mil. We got Coinbase explaining their valuation for token listing. That's in quick news. We got some Curve governance battles. Ivan's getting lit up. Polkadot EOS. So we got some big DeFi news that you'll kind of break down, and then we have NFTs to end the episode. So we appreciate everybody kind of hopping in here. I'm gonna start sharing it on social media, and we'll get going, man. But what was your week like in crypto here, man? What's going on with you? You make any trades?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been kind of watching the market. There's a lot of trades that kind of flourished. From Dimitri's desk, I was talking about the ICX that worked out pretty well.
Ooh.
So my man Manos should be doing good. But like overall, I mean, it's interesting to see a lot of things that are coming out, and we're going to talk about just kind of solutions for DeFi when it comes to like liquidity, retain liquidity, maybe addressing the gas fees and the things, and as far as the credit markets go, the unwinding possibility if the unwinding does come, how the DeFi space is preparing for it. So it's kind of interesting to see all those things, kind of starting to roll out.
Yeah,
So
we had an interesting discussion on that specifically with Aaron, who Aaron came
yeah.
on the episode, Aaron Choi from Kava Labs, and you guys kind of were riffing on that, man. What do you think of that Kava episode? That was like our latest interview. We dropped that on Saturday.
Yeah, it was a great conversation with him. He was very open to like kind of telling us, kind of the truth without like sugarcoating or anything like that. He just gave it to you straight, and those are the type of interviews that I love, right? So when
Mm.
we ask a question, some people kind of LARP around the question,
Mm-hmm.
and like not really answer it, but he gave it to us straight, which is great. Reminds me of the interviews that we've done, like with Kane and everything like that, where we talk about the issues, we address them. He's like, yeah, listen, there is an issue like that. It will happen and all this stuff, right? So I really enjoyed that one. I highly recommend you guys check out that one if you want to, find out more about just like the DeFi space and what's going on there. Obviously, Kava is very involved in that sector. So
Yeah, guys, and we wanted to talk about some updates for lads as well. We obviously had those interviews, but one thing that we have always tried to do is kind of make our interviews and these layer one lives and NFT lives, Dimitri's desk, everything we're trying to like create better content in all fashions, right? So one thing that we're going to be rolling out in the coming weeks, and it may be sooner than that, we're going to add Crypto Buffalo here to layer one a little bit. I know he has a kind of an experience doing production for shows and things like that. So what you'll see is hopefully a different setup, maybe a more improved setup for you guys from a production standpoint. So keep a lookout for that. Shout out Crypto Buffalo. Ronan's been bringing it too on NFT Live, so we appreciate those guys kind of bringing what they can to layer one. So
yeah, I was gonna just say, it's fascinating to see the community, reach out to us and with different skill sets, anywhere from developers to production and so on, right? And it's fantastic, right? So
mm,
part of the reason why we do introductions for the new members is kind of see what their sector is, what their interests are, and so on, right? And some of them that we have positions open for that can improve layer one. We definitely open to discussions. So just keep that in mind, guys.
Yeah, if you guys are out there and you have some specific skill set that you can add to Layer 1, like Dimitri said, reach out, man. It's been awesome to see that. So I'm going to pull up the Layer 1 weekly update that was just dropped, like I believe 30 minutes ago. Kind of shows, and this is via Substack, guys. So if you guys want to keep up, this is kind of our HQ, kind of our website for now. And we're going to continue to use this Substack. It really helps us, guys, if you guys can go there and sign up for this kind of, I would say, newsletter, but it also kind of keeps you up to date, not only on these weekly updates, but with specific events that we're running and things like that. That's where we're going to release this information. So kind of has the information from last week. Obviously, we did that COG sale. Dimitri broke down how you should be looking at the DeFi market on Dimitri's desk. We had Dapper and Flow, Kava Labs. And what we've got coming this week, guys, we've got certain updates that are very pertinent to the community that you'll see kind of rolled out, as well as sentiment analysis. We've got the LADZ token art bounty. So we have that LADZ token. We want to add some community engagement here, and the winner is going to kind of win LADZ, obviously. So that's going to be our monthly reward, and I'll break that down here in a second. And then we have Zach Gall, our friend from ICO Alert, who is a great guy. He's going to come into the channel. He works at DApp now. He works with VIG or Vigor stablecoin out there in the EOS land, as well as Masari. They're stopping by. So that's kind of the recap from this past week. Are you ready for that Gall interview, man?
Oh man, I'm so excited. It's gonna be amazing. I love Gall, man. We had so many great stories together with him. So
yeah. I talked with him this morning because he was asking like, "What's the layout?" Yada yada yada. He does watch Layer 1. Sometimes he's come on, but I basically said like, "Dude, the hardest thing we're gonna have to do is staying on schedule with that."
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be packed with stories from our ICO Alert days. It's gonna be amazing. So let me so we can get onto the news for you guys and some of the LADZ news. Let me get to the community recap. We added 32 members. 32 members from this past week. We appreciate all of you guys joining the channel. I know a ton of people were watching our interviews this week. They were watching pretty much all of our content and got added to the community. So I remember the COGS live stream. It was kind of like opening the floodgates, and you had to had to handle that. So shout out to these 32. We're up to 108 in our Telegram. Special shout out to everybody that's been donating, man, on the streams. Those have been really cool to see as we go live. LADZ leaderboard here, we're up to 9. Actually, I think that's 10 because we have some ties, but we're up to 10 people holding LADZ, man. So appreciate the engagement. You guys holding LADZ, these initial LADZ whales, we definitely give a shout out to you. And then the content from the past week, obviously. So we've got everything there from the past week. So that is pretty much it, guys. We have a full week again of Layer 1. So I just wanted to kind of get you guys that. What do you make of that, Dima?
Yeah, no, man, it's great. By the way, guys, for the weekly update, it's something we don't spam. Obviously, it's going to be just once a week, so you guys can definitely sign up for that. Great way to kind of keep track of things, and also kind of things that are coming up. Right, we have great interviews coming up with Masari, Gall, so you guys can see what to expect. But listen, we got some good PR, a couple of days ago or so, like the last week, right? The word is getting out.
It is. And you can tell people are starting to kind of get more interested in what we have going on at Layer 1. I think that has to do with some of the PR, and it also has to do, again, you guys, I put this in the weekly update, you guys have been actively chatting in the community, so people coming to Layer1Live, they're like, holy shit, what is this? And then they get to come to the community, they get to talk shit coins, they get to talk what's going on in crypto each week, so definitely want to kind of break this down. But we had DeFi Prime kind of here, and they were talking about all the token curated. They use that specifically, right? They said token curated communities, and we were part of this token curated communities list here. So we've got Party, we've got Jam, we've got Karma. Karma's obviously been heavy in the news, and we had Layer 1 in the news. So they broke down these different TCCs, and I believe they showed Collab Land as kind of the tool that these different tokens have been using. And Layer 1's right here, LADZ token right here. Layer 1 crypto podcast company used the Roll platform to tokenize its brand back in July 2020. That token, LADZ, is earnable by folks who participate in activities around Layer 1. So we got the huge shout out from DeFi Prime, man.
Yeah, no, that was great. Also, Sandbox came through as well. That was another shout out that we got. So, yeah, man, things are picking up. The word is getting out on the street. So those OG guys that are getting in early, um, you know, so you guys, we know who you are. So
Definitely, man. And we're gonna continuously roll out stuff for the OGs for sure. We did have that. I have that Sandbox tweet right up here, guys. They obviously mentioned a ton of different people who, if you go onto Sandbox's site and you see kind of the map of the sales, you can see like CryptoKitties, Atari, MakerDAO, Whale Sharks in there, a ton of different people, and then what do you got in there? A little Layer 1 pod action. So, boom, we are getting some major shout outs. The NFT discussions in the group have been really cool. One thing we're definitely going to work on as we make these LADZ updates literally longer and longer. I feel like everyone Layer 1 Live. One thing we're going to add going forward, obviously, is that Discord access. So, Kieran had enough tokens to get access. We're kind of inching up to that point with a couple other people, but 1,000 lads gets you access to that Discord. And what we can do within those Discords is break down these discussions. So it could be like, hey, we have NFT discussion in this channel. We've got, trading talk in this channel, just general chat in another. So that I think adds a little bit more functionality. I know people, whenever anybody starts talking NFTs, maybe someone's, loves trading shitcoins, not NFTs, and then the channel goes on mute or something like that. So,
yeah, exactly. So, we don't want that. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So we'll be adding some stuff to Discord, but that's pretty much it. We wanted to give a shout out to Scott this week. Scott is our lad of the week. He's been definitely adding contribution to the channel, and we appreciate your contributions to Layer 1, Scott. So shout out there. Last thing, guys, I'm going to break down some stats, and then we'll move on to the actual news in the episode. So top 5 countries this week: US, we had Australia, UK, India, and 5th is going to be Canada. Top 3 episodes this week is going to be that episode with Kava that was launched on Saturday. We had Flow launched on Wednesday, and then that reserve episode with Charlie Smith is still pulling in some views. This week, like we talked about, we got Dimitri's Desk on Tuesday. We got Zach Gall and Dap on Wednesday. Thursday, we got NFT Live. Friday/Saturday, we may start to move that episode around. We have Masari as well as Dimitri's Desk on Friday. So,
boom.
Damn.
Yeah, packed schedule.
yeah, we're gonna have to designate an episode just to have Layer 1 updates at this point. But
I know, right?
yeah. So for those people following in afterwards, what we should probably say in the beginning is if you want to skip the Layer 1 updates, although why would you? You can just make it to this point right now. So we will begin talking breaking news. We had another piece of news that obviously was in the thumbnail that didn't make it on the dashboard, but Portnoy capitulated already. Portnoy is out. Last week we literally had the Winklevoss twins on the thumbnail. They were there sitting him down, talking about Bitcoin, talking about Elon Musk and asteroids, all this crazy stupid stuff that they could have done something else with. And then a week later, not less than a week, Dave had already begun fighting with the Link Marines, and he was out. He capitulated. He's done with Bitcoin. He's done with crypto. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's, somebody who's entering this market and doesn't understand the volatility, right? Doesn't understand how it works. Like Dave, he was shocked by I guess what happened, right? So the fact that he got in and then, he had to float some losses and then he pulled out, right? And he's like, well, he's trying to explain, hey, listen, why would I do this when I can just trade and make 6-figure a day, trading stocks, they're legitimate, blah, 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 all this stuff. So it was interesting, to kind of see that, but I just felt like that is him getting into crypto is without understanding all this stuff, and he's kind of doing the meme thing. He's probably trying to test out and see if he can pump, or what about this conspiracy? What if he didn't get in and he ended up saying that he got out, so the prices go lower and now he's gonna get in?
We always have crazy conspiracy theories on Layer 1, man. If something happens, it always has to be something else that actually happened.
Right.
So that could be the case. I'm interested. I think he didn't. I feel like in the traditional stock market, there's not this fervor around each token or each, obviously, stock where you have this community that's behind it. So when he's attacking a token or the ticker like Link and that company Link, I wonder if he's ever used to like having rabid fan bases behind that, saying, "Hey, screw you," because no one's doing that when he shits on Apple or something like that. Maybe Apple's one of the only ones, but
Yeah, he got a taste of the crypto community for sure. It was interesting to see also there's a lot of people that were tweeting at him and setting up wagers, like trying to set up wagers. It's like, hey, listen, I bet this, that Bitcoin is going to be here, like, and so on, right? Trying to get him to do a wager. So yeah, it was. I mean, the crypto community once it mobilizes,
it's hard to stop.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. His foray into crypto was definitely quick. I think he will be back, but it was an interesting little foray. Like the memes were amazing. They had the Armageddon meme, but yeah, definitely interesting stuff with Dave Portnoy, and we'll see where that goes up to next point. But
he's still asking. Like I saw one of the tweets he was just saying, "Hey, at what price should I get back into Link?" Oh, like
Of
really?
course, of course. Well, Portnoy, you should get in at any point. I mean, Link's a tough one, man. That thing has gone absolutely bonkers. So maybe choose another shitcoin that's not so that hasn't had the run up Link has had, and maybe you'll have more success. So there is like a following, like a Twitter bot that's following him now as well, which kind of tracks when Dave sold at this point what the BTC would be worth up to this point. So Scott is saying he's got a run. I'll rewatch. Definitely, Scott. We'll see you on the other side, man. Appreciate your support so far. So okay, so we got this next story. It's going to be in breaking as well. 1inch, the team behind Mooniswap, which is that fork basically of Uniswap, is launching their token. Now we've seen a ton of decentralized finance tokens kind of launch over the past week. We've seen forks of yam, which is like pasta and all this crazy nonsense.
Shrimp.
Shrimp. Definitely, there's money to be made in DeFi, but it's definitely getting a little dicey. 1inch token is probably not as dicey as a fork of yam, but it's definitely gonna be up there, and we'll see exactly. I don't know if you can kind of look this up, man, but maybe some volume on Mooniswap at this point. I don't know if you have any of that data, but basically 1inch was founded by these guys from ETH New York. They completely forked the code of Uniswap, and I'll pull up Hayden Adams, who's the founder of Uni, and what he had to say about this. But they're basically launching a token 1inch. Not much was given as far as information goes on the release. There's a ton of information on what it actually does, right? It's all these kind of like buzzwords, ensure permissionless fashion of interaction with protocols. There's going to be liquidity mining kind of given there. If you guys are here and want to take a look at this, you can refresh your browser. We've got these links in there. 1inch being one of them, but we're seeing all these the distribution numbers. We're seeing token utility that you can kind of look through, but basically they have this liquidity mining, which will be the essential reason for having this token, right? You can also have governance via token, and we'll get to the curve in a second, but basically the 1inch team is launching this 1inch token. The release date is not there yet, but they will be doing liquidity mining right when it goes live, whenever that does go live. They'll also be giving vouchers, I believe, that start now, that will, for the early lips, are going to be kind of providing them rewards based on what they've already done, as opposed to everybody getting it at one point. They want to kind of reward those early liquidity providers and incentivize those guys to do that now, even before the launch. So what do you make of this Mooniswap token here? And then I'll pull up Hayden's response, which was a little dicey, but
Yeah, I mean, so just to looking at the volume itself, right? So if you look at Uniswap, 24-hour volume shown on CoinGecko is about 8 million. So if you compare that to Uniswap, 24-hour volume is shown to be 207 million. But also you have to keep in mind that the overall, how many coins are available. So for example, on Uniswap, there's 581 coins available, and on Mooney, it's like 81 or something like that, 86. So you have to keep that in mind. But it's interesting actually just to see, like understanding the overall value proposition from 1inch exchange. is that what it does, it basically pulls data from multiple dexes, right,
Mm,
and aggregates that. So it gives the ability for the traders to pick on those best bid ask prices that are available on multiple exchanges rather than just relying on one.
got
um,
it.
so that that's pretty cool. I'm all for that. There can be quite a bit of success in that arena. um, but yeah, I mean, it's still kind of early stages, as you can see, right? They still don't have the volume that Uniswap is putting out. They don't have as many coins available
Mm-hmm.
on Uniswap. So and they're kind of front running that whole thing of people expecting like Uniswap to come out with the token, right? But they haven't. But Uniswap, right? Obviously, like, all right, here we go. We're gonna maybe launching this thing. Even though today it was interesting to see some people might see that Uniswap perpetual futures have been listed on
Mm-hmm.
FTX. And just to be sure, so you guys understand, this is a product that's structured by FTX. It's not actually like the governance token or the usual setup that people have when they release, like their token. This is a pure speculation play on the
Mm-hmm.
Uniswap success. Basically, the way it's calculated, it tracks the sum of the prices of 100 Uniswap pools that trade against ETH times the FTX ETH index. So it's basically, FTX is known to create interesting products on based on whatever the hype is in the industry right now.
Yeah.
So that's just another way for them to capture the market. And just so you know, that token is trading close to 30,000 right now.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about this FTX perpetual swap there maybe later in the episode. I am going to pull up this Hayden post really quick. For those of you that just jumped in, because it looks like we have about 18 of you guys in the chat at this point. We appreciate you guys showing up early. This is going to last, I mean, we're just right in the beginning, so this is going to last probably another hour and a half, but we will get to a ton of different news points. We are on the 1-inch token being launched at this point, but we've got quick news, which is going to cover BlockFi, Coinbase, Binance. We've got a curve governance kind of war going on. We've got Metal acquiring blocks.io as far as EOS goes, and then we have some things happening in DeFi. We got Avalanche gearing up for its launch. We've got USDT migrating to OMG Go. We've got synthetic futures from the synthetics team, and then NFTs. We've got some big news there. So we appreciate you guys showing up early for us. Again, I think we peaked out at like 33 last time. So that's going to be something we're going to look to break here on Layer1Live. I know a couple other episodes on the channel and different kind of series have gotten up there, but we appreciate you guys showing up early. So I do have this Hayden post which I want to get to. Again, they're launching the 1-inch team's launching their token. It is a fork of Uniswap. If you go to Uniswap right now, it looks the exact freaking same. So we will touch on this really quick. So basically, Hayden, in a long thread, went to say we're not competing, we just copy. Okay. So initially he's saying I got the message from them literally 12 days ago saying they don't intend to compete with us. I have no issues with competition, but lying and gaslighting is pretty annoying. So I guess what happened here, and there was a ton of people in the community that said, hey, listen, you're building open source protocol here. You shouldn't be offended when someone takes that open source code and then forks it and makes their own product. Yeah. He is saying that. I think he's obviously making fun of them here, but he's basically talking as if he's the 1-inch guys. He's saying, we're not competing, bro. We just copied your protocol, copied your name, copied your brand, forks your trading interface, forked your analytics site, create a migration contract, and launch a token to incentivize usage. So, safe to say he's not happy with that. I think that he goes on to say he was okay with them kind of forking the code because DeFi Prime kind of called them out, Hayden out for this, but he was kind of upset that they lied about maybe competing with him, and maybe he feels a little bit hurt here. Certainly, I mean, they're front running the token listing, obviously here. We said that Uniswap should get that listing or should, launch that token at some point. Uniswap's coming in and offering the same product with a token. So interesting to see what happens here. I wonder if the community kind of takes over here and kind of the market will decide.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to how that's going to work out. But it's not exactly the same, the setup, right? The
Hmm.
fork does have extra features and things like that that incentivize users to use it. But we still see Uniswap holding that number one spot for now. And the Mooniswap is still kind of ways far from kind of reaching the Uniswap numbers.
Hmm.
But I mean, like at the end of the day, if the Mooniswap is going to be using the liquidity on Uniswap, then
Hmm.
that really contributes to their volume as well. I think at the end of the day, what you have to realize is that when these exchanges are popping up, right? You have eventually you get to a point where you have an aggregator of all exchanges, and those
Hmm.
exchanges will compete to have their liquidity be used in that aggregator. So I think it's a good way to stir up the competition within the liquidity providers overall to compete for the volume of the
I
clients.
see.
And I think that at the end of the day that will benefit the industry overall. I kind of been talking about that in the past, where right now it's kind of like exchanges are all on their own, and they're the liquidity providers don't really compete that much for the volume. But I think the structure like that, where it can aggregate volume from multiple exchanges, that will help liquidity providers compete for the chase for that volume and yield that's available.
Yeah, love that, guys. All right, so we've made it through. We've made it through the breaking news here. We're gonna get to quick news, and then we're gonna get to our discussion, kind of around what you just talked about in the evolution of DeFi. Almost, you have kind of these governance wars that are taking kind of place. You've seen obviously Uniswap get a little upset at them forking and upgrading the code, and we'll see what happens going forward. But Curve kind of took a misstep there. But before that, we'll get to the quick news. I think you're going to touch on it real quickly first. But I did want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys showing up. Listen, that chat box right there, right there. It's used for something, guys. So what we're gonna give you all the news. We have our dashboard to go through the news, but our most lively Layer 1 lives have been when you guys participate. So what's going on in your neck of the woods as far as crypto is concerned? What bags are you holding? So Dimitri can break them down. Maybe not live, but he can touch on them for a second. And just let us know, man. Have a discussion with us as far as all this crypto news that we're bringing you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's hop into it. So the first quick piece of news is BlockFi raises 50 million and eyes potential SBAC. But it's interesting to see BlockFi went through multiple raises. This is another raise that did 50 million. And it was interesting to hear what Zach was saying. Obviously, it was a great success. Zach Prince was talking about that. This is the money that we don't need, but it's good to have
Mm,
in this market environment at the moment because as the overall lending and borrowing sector is heating up, not maybe slightly related to maybe the DeFi stuff that's going on, but there's the other side of it where Coinbase is now releasing where you can borrow against your crypto on their platform. So more and more like these kind of centralized facilities are starting to offer lending and borrowing. And it was interesting to hear, what Zach was saying, like, why would you need, this money basically? And what he's planning for is they're going to eventually launch a Bitcoin credit card.
mm,
So, that's going to be super interesting how that's going to work out. And he wants to be able to have enough funds to be able to deploy and do marketing and all that good stuff, and have plenty of gas in the tank without kind of stopping midway or running out of funds, like midway and so on, right? You don't want to be doing raise while you're launching already a new product because that doesn't really look that good, right? So he's kind of front running it and trying to beef out his stash. So when he's going to be starting to release these new products and BlockFi is staying competitive, right? In that field, they're trying to be on that cutting edge all the time because the market participants at the end of the day will decide kind of who they want to stick with and which company is going to continue to rise.
mm.
And lending and borrowing space is very competitive right now in crypto, so I think he's realizing that, and they really have to be have the pedal on the gas all the time and stay relevant. the Coinbase piece is not really, he mentioned it's not really competition for them because they're doing something that BlockFi did in like 2018. So it's like, it's fine, that's cool. That's just gonna open up more kind of like the credit markets and in crypto. But from BlockFi standpoint, they're way ahead, and they're doing a lot of things that some of these guys like Coinbase that is coming in is not going to be doing. Right. I'm excited for a credit card. That's going to be interesting. Like, that'd be dope.
Yeah, that's going to be nice, man. I've seen a lot of these debit and credit cards kind of roll out for crypto. I do want to touch on some of these comments, but before I get to your guys' comments, and there are good ones, what do you make of Celsius and BlockFi as competitors? Are they obviously they're competing, but in the long scheme of things, is BlockFi maybe going down a road that Celsius is probably not, as far as attracting institutional? Obviously, offering a Bitcoin credit card, I don't think is on Celsius's roadmap at all. So, what do you make of that competition?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they serve different sectors. So also BlockFi, just to mention, they're gearing up, and there's basically talks about them eventually probably going IPO. They can do that, they can do it, I guess, maybe by themselves or through acquisitions. And It's interesting actually how you can do that. You can actually acquire a company that's publicly traded, but it's a really shell company, and then boom, you're traded on the stock market. So like, as far as Celsius goes, they don't have really those plans. And also, Celsius is more geared towards kind of the retail, the fluffy side of like retail crypto guys.
Yeah.
Which is cool. There's a huge market there, right? While BlockFi is more of an institutional, sophisticated, kind of side where services like that, button down, kind of like service for lending and borrowing. So I think they've carved out their kind of sectors for themselves, and they kind of rolling with it. There's been a lot of kind of this interest rate wars between the two, right? Because obviously one offers, let's say, more interest than the other, and they'll do something like silly, like one offers like 8%, and Celsius will come out and be like 8.05.
Just like one incremental percentage, a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's interesting to see that. And I've talked about overall, about the interest rates. We had, there's a great interview that we did with BlockFi. I recommend for those guys that haven't seen it, go check it out. Zach explains the interest rates very well, and kind of the projection of how he sees the interest rates kind of play out and so on. So yeah, I'm happy to see BlockFi doing well. They're killing it.
Yeah, definitely. So we got some comments here that I want to get to. Fidel himself brings up a good point. He said, we need tax advisor who specialize in yield farming. So I know you're not a tax advisor that specializes in yield farming, but I wanted to get your take on that question. One thing that kind of like sparked in my mind there while he was asking this question, this was brought up in the LADZ community chat earlier, but it wasn't towards yields farming. It was towards NFTs. And it's something that I feel like no NFT collectors are thinking about at this point. But do you know off the top of your head what the tax rate for collectibles are?
No.
The minimum rate, I'm talking minimum, even holding it longer than a year, like you would with capital gains, things like that, the minimum's 28%.
Wow.
So if you're...
So it's wow, that's so for long term?
For long term, yes.
That's crazy. That's
and no one is talking about this. There is no... I don't think there's any tax like regulation or any tax wording around NFTs to this point. Maybe there is. Maybe it's just coming from different law offices, but I don't know if it's been handed down from the top. We have a ton of NFT enthusiasts in here, but to think that even after a year, you're paying 28%, and that's federal. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? So it will be an interesting discussion. I don't know. Did you have anything as far as yield farming on the tax advising?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not a tax expert at all. So, but like, just look for similar structures. Like, let's say something that's very similar that already has kind of tax code and how you should follow it. That could be applied to it. Like, for example, like, I mean, how do you do like, for staking? Let's say if you're earning, right? If you're staking on a node, right, you're earning the tokens. That's an income, right? That could be similar to the way it's applicable to taxes, as long as it's income. But obviously you have to talk to the accountant about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we could have an accountant on layer one, but you guys, some people ask for it, and then we launch it. We have the whole interview. They're a great person, and then the interview gets like 50 hits because nobody cares about crypto and taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So maybe we can get maybe a panel together. I know that's something we're planning on launching here within the coming probably 6 months. Is kind of launching different events and different panels where we have larger than maybe just me and you interviewing an individual. So that might be something. Maybe we do that. We got Sahil saying it isn't only for profits NFT tax. Yeah, I would need to do that. It basically, the guy who was initially commenting on this was talking about the taxes as it relates to physical collectibles. So if it's this way for physical collectibles, are digital collectibles in that same realm? So definitely something to take a look at. We got 24 of you guys in the channel right now. So we were saying this earlier, but 33 is our max on at live concurrent viewers at one time on Layer1Live. So if you guys got friends, bring them in the channel. Let's break our all-time high.
Hit up your click farms. Start up the engines, turn on multiple computers.
100%. Well, actually, let me load mine up real quick. Let me pump the news.
So yeah, I was gonna mention really quick something, but it kind of slipped out of my mind.
Yeah, no worries. So you're gonna talk on IMF next, and then I've got web traffic for exchanges and Coinbase before we get into our curve governance kind of discussion, as well as Ivan on tech and a couple other influencers getting called out for doing what we would call shady business practices, and we'll kind of get your guys' discussion points there. I appreciate everybody showing up to the channel. Obviously, we kind of hit on that already, but we really like that you guys are commenting along. It makes it for a more lively discussion. If you're following along right now, we are at IMF. We are at Quick News, so there's the links in the description. You can take a look. If you're not part of the LADZ Telegram, please get in there. It's a Telegram link right there in the socials. You guys can join the LADZ community, one of the best growing communities as it comes to crypto enthusiasts. Man, you guys have been killing it. So here we go.
Yeah. I was just gonna mention. I remember that you imagine explaining to your tax accountant DeFi farming. Like, good luck.
Yeah. I feel that.
All right. So yeah. So this one is just really quick. IMF, International Monetary Fund. So they posted 21 hours ago. They tweeted out a video. What are cryptocurrencies? And it's like you can watch the educational video about how it explains. Cryptocurrencies. It's got BTC, ETH. It's even got XRP in the video. It's basically kind of like an educational video that's like 2 minutes long, very basic, and kind of explaining certain things. Just so you guys keep in mind, I mean, for those that might not be aware of IMF, these guys have been around since 1944. There's 189 countries participating in the International Monetary Fund. They're absolutely huge. They do things like aid certain countries that are in need, struggling economically, and they do investments like $1 trillion into any given country that needs help. It's absolutely huge, and it's very interesting to see them roll out this educational video. And they did quite a bit of different educational videos, like just to kind of educate the market in general, people on different stuff that's going on, so people are aware. I wouldn't say like IMF is getting into this, so like, come on, let's be real, but I think it's IMF is realizing how popular cryptocurrencies are becoming, and how different countries are using it, and they want to make sure that the people kind of understand like the background of it, right? So it's more of educational rather than kind of like shilling, crypto. So because last thing you want is just kind of a lot of people being not educated about like what is the cryptocurrency and what it does and what it's for, and technology and so on. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think as we go along, it's going to get better and better as far as the information out there for people trying to get into crypto. I remember in like 2016 trying to find information on this other than like really, not reputable sources, although what is reputable these days, but trying to find that stuff was kind of tough. So it's great to see this. So I've got a couple quick news before we touch on some good comments again. So you guys are coming through. We saw web traffic. So this was a article from The Block. They're talking about web traffic as far as centralized exchanges go. Now, one thing I'm looking at when I'm looking at this is what is the increase from last month, as well as, and it looks like that's 12.7% for centralized exchanges. I wish there was something that had any type of information about decentralized exchanges. I'm sure they do somewhere, but in this article, it's strictly talking about centralized exchanges, and I'd love to see what exchanges got hurt the most, maybe from the decentralized exchange kind of blow up that we've seen over the past couple months. So as far as the article is concerned, Binance is getting 25 million or 22.6% of the total traffic to the centralized exchanges. Coinbase coming in second at 20% of the total, and BitMEX is coming in third at 6.2%. And then you see obviously a smaller percentages and larger number of exchanges as we go on. So Binance, Coinbase, and BitMEX are leading the way as far as crypto traffic is concerned.
Nice.
And then we have Coinbase explaining valuation. So we've had some people come on into the chat and kind of ask us what our thoughts are on Coinbase listing different tokens. That's kind of the story as old as time almost, if you've been in crypto long enough. Coinbase listings have always been kind of a coveted explanation and kind of a coveted kind of award that some tokens have been receiving since the beginning. I remember it was basically, I think at one point it was, and I say this all the time, but at one point it was literally Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I believe BCH was the other one. I don't know if that's true, but I know there was only 3 assets on the platform. Maybe it was Ethereum Classic. I always kind of stumble at the third one, but as we see these go along, it looks like we're having more transparency from Coinbase, and you can kind of take a look. It looks like the 4 qualities they're looking for, and you guys can kind of see the breakdown and the quotes specifically from Nadir, who is heading up blockchain security over there. Obviously, it revolves mostly around security, that being the verified source code, industry standard library use, limited scope for privileged roles, and simple and modular design. So that was basically broken down. He goes on, obviously, in the article to explain like what actually each means. Obviously, you don't want too much control in a couple different keys, being able to kind of blacklist addresses or pause addresses. You want a decentralized setup there. Verified source code obviously makes sense. You don't want to have something that's like going to be able to be exploited or hacked on Coinbase. That would not be a good look. So that's pretty much the quick news that I had from Coinbase and Binance. They're doing a good job. We'll see where the Coinbase listings go from here, man. But the listings have had an effect. You've heard about some tokens maybe possibly get listing. The valuation goes up just a tad, not as much as back in the day. I think I remember Coinbase listings would get you like 200%. You'd be like, or 50 to 100% in a day. So
was it OMG? I think that was the last one.
It might have been. Yeah, OMI's Go, which we'll get to here in a second, or I don't know when exactly. I think we have that in the DeFi discussion. USDT was moving over there, but I don't think it was one of the top 3 at the time. But yeah, they were one of the recent listings for sure. So yeah, that's good news. Coinbase is chugging along, doing things that Coinbase does. That story with Aaron, man, was crazy. If you guys didn't get a chance to watch Kava Labs episode, Aaron Choi, he was on it. He was like saying that he first got into crypto 2013, and he was like, yeah, I got my first Bitcoin from Brian Armstrong, and we were like, what?
Yeah. I don't think he kept it though. Yeah,
who would?
Yeah. Yeah, how many people there are that actually had some Bitcoin, forgot their wallet, and so on, right? It's tough.
Yeah, definitely. So, guys, we made it probably halfway through the episode here. We've gotten through the breaking. We've gotten through quick news. We've gotten through all the LADZ updates. We're going to talk about Polkadot here in a second, but we will have some discussion points. But we got community questions here, and one of them looks pretty good. Do you want to hit these community questions?
Let me see.
So we're talking taxes on the first one. It said, how much is Biden promising to increase capital gains taxes? Anyone know? So Biden's actually from Delaware, though. That's important to put out. I don't know how liberal he goes down that left wing, but he's definitely, I think, more moderate when it comes to business and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see where he moves capital gains. I don't know exactly. I can look that up and maybe bring it up while we're talking. But yeah, I can talk about it. But it's the specific one that Brandon is hitting.
Yeah. What do you think about LADZ rewards for friends referral? Yeah, that sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty interesting. We just don't want to get botted. That would be the only kind of the dark side of it.
Mm.
So, but there's obviously ways we can promote it better. Suhail mentioned about promoting on Twitter more, so it could be in terms of also kind of retweets, bounties,
Mm-hmm.
likes, so on, to get the word out about Layer 1. I think the referral might be set up later on, maybe when we start rolling out Discord and other features that require like memberships in order to hold an X amount of LADs. So yeah, I could see that maybe come up a little bit later.
Yeah, as we see the kind of the evolution with the LADZ token, we're definitely going to have access features. But I do like the idea of having friend referrals as far as LADZ rewards. So the issue then being, like Dimitri's saying, like if you have a social media situation, you're always going to somehow get botted if there's some type of monetary reward. So definitely have to set that up. Maybe we do it based on reputation. Maybe we're going down the rabbit hole here of DAO governance. Maybe we have a DAO set up and all these different things, man. That would be really cool. But certainly a rabbit hole that maybe we don't have time for at this point. But Brandon, your comment is noted. We will look into friend referrals as far as LADs are concerned. Sahil saying that's cool, Brandon, but I reckon having a super active Twitter account is a way to go for growing the channel and community. Appreciate the comments there, guys. Daniel saying Coinbase doesn't want to lose out on the gains to Binance. Of course not. That's why they're adding those. And then we're talking Polkadot here in a second. So, all right. We've made it to the discussion piece. I'm going to move the old column down here. I don't know if you want to start this kind of discussion with the curve governance battle, but it's definitely taken up a sizable chunk of the community as far as DeFi is concerned of the comments here. So basically what we have is there was a pool, I believe, that was gaining too many of these YE like governance tokens. And in response to this, in order to not lose power on the network as far as voting is concerned, the founder, who has a significant portion of Curve and the Curve governance token, actually was able to get 71% of the voting power by staking his tokens and therefore push out kind of the remaining community. If there was any proposal that he wanted to push through, he could have got it. If there was a proposal to shut down the whole thing and give everything to my man, whose his last name is Igorov, so Michael Igorov, he would have been able to push that voting proposal through. Obviously, you don't want to see that in a decentralized kind of organization, a DAO mechanic. I think it's important to point out before we get to breaking this down a little bit further. I think Vitalik might have commented on this, or it might have been Dan Larimer from the kind of Block One side and EO side. But the idea here is like when you start in a DAO or when you start an organization that is decentralized, usually it starts very centralized. And then it moves down. I mean, Bitcoin was extremely centralized at one point and then moved down that spectrum. So this stuff kind of tends to happen in the early stages of DAO governance and protocol governance, and then eventually maybe a year, 2 years out, that doesn't happen. So this, I want to get your thoughts though on this specific event. What do you make of this Curve governance token kind of being overtaken by the founder and the founder kind of seizing control of that network almost?
Yeah, it's kind of mixed opinions on that, right? Because it kind of reminds me of that effect where the crypto community kind of gets together and starts bashing on this, like when CZ was like, let's do the rollback, and everybody's like, wait a minute, what? We said what?
Yeah.
Like, excuse me, so it's like, yeah, in this case, I think it was he kind of overreacted a little bit in terms of the amount, but he was also had to move quickly because of what was going on, right? So yeah, it kind of sucks that we ended up here, but in order to preserve like the whole system, maybe there's a way of just clamping it down for now, where he's going to be pretty much the biggest holder of the governance token, and everything has to go through him for now, until things kind of stabilize and decentralization is there in terms of voting, and things can move forward. But it just in general, this is just the tip of the iceberg, kind of foreshadowing what can happen with some of these governance tokens, because if you do have attacks on the networks in terms of exploiting these governance tokens and being able to change things around, where it really benefits the person who's voting. And that can, that puts the capital on that is locked in
Mm-hmm.
on that platform in danger. So we've kind of talked about the DeFi and where they rank in terms of locked up capital. For example, Curve right now is at 1.06 billion dollars. So that does put like basically a bullseye on you from the like kind of the dark hat hackers, right? To exploit that pool and be able to play around with some of these governance tokens and so on. And that's actually starting to repeat, on some other platforms that are way smaller, because I guess they're weaker. There's really not as much capital locked up there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to exploit it. So this is something that's obviously going to need to be addressed by the by the DeFi community, because this is something that's not something that's not so repeated issues like that is something that's it's going to turn off a lot of people from DeFi and actual function of it. So
Yeah, I think there's an important point that you made there, that this has been happening since kind of staking was ever created, right? And you have specifically DPoS systems that have dealt with trying to deal with governance for years now, and this is kind of this whole situation that we've been talking about, which is voter apathy is one of the main reasons DPoS kind of is still moving its way in not in kind of its moment. How do I put this? DPoS probably could be more successful if voter apathy didn't exist. And what you have here is, and it says it in the article, it looks like only 6.7% of all the curve in supply right now are currently being voted to be locked up. Therefore, you have a lack of control by the broader community and more control by centralized people. This is the same stuff that's been happening in DPoS for a long time. That's why proxies, I think, are going to be so important. I think proxies allow people like, and I'll use an example here. If Layer 1 was a proxy and had proxy votes on the Curve governance protocol, where we had like some kind of form of action within Curve governance, we could, for other people who maybe aren't as active in the community but also know our faces and can say, hey, their views kind of align with what we're doing. Certainly we're not doing that, but they're starting to be what we're calling like protocol politicians, where you have these proxies kind of go up and say, hey, I know you're not voting right now, and some of that has to do with the lack of information out there. It takes a lot to be informed on all these different governance sides. So let me proxy your votes to me. I'll vote on all the positions that you think that we align on, essentially. So proxies are definitely one thing that's propped up that I think is going to continue. You've seen this idea of protocol politicians kind of pop up over and over as governance kind of becomes more important.
Yeah, because like those regular kind of token holders, majority of them don't really care much, I guess, right? Unless it's like a yam situation where everybody just scrambles and like starts delegating and everything, right, to save it. But for the majority of these, they're like a lot of people just want to speculate, they want to get like the yield and so on. They don't really care about that. And then they talk about the voting participation obviously being low. You mentioned it as well, and Fiddle himself mentioned that CRE vote lock-in begins on the 28th, which will correct this to an extent. Until now, there has been no incentive to lock accept voting. Soon there will be 2.5x incentive. So incentives for voting, obviously going to steer up people to get involved more, and perhaps maybe that will iron out the issue of like centralization of the way it's kind of set up right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely been. It raises the question, and it raises a lot of different questions within DAO, within governance. We've seen kind of with DeFi, it's almost in that kind of adolescent stage where everything that can happen, where it's like, oh, it's new, and all this stuff is, we're just breaking things and we're building things. Well, at some point when you create a product, it has to enter a stage of maturity, and what you're seeing right now with this governance is there is a little bit of maturity going on with, okay, this stuff needs to get ironed out. We got pretty much DeFi Jesus here commenting on this. Andre saying, so Curve Finance founder just took over 71% of the voting power, and since founder rewards are significantly higher than LPs and other voters, pretty much those people are pretty much locked or it pretty much locked everyone else out. So I guess voting is pointless now. Have fun, everyone. So it's important to point out in the article as well, they go on to talk about kind of I guess he has 60% of control now, which is significantly lower than the 71% that was. Obviously, vote locking with the community might incentivize people to lock up, because if you lock up for longer, you actually have more vote on the system. So that will be interesting. Igorov did apologize, I think, via his Telegram. He said, "Terribly sorry. Let's fix that. I mean, I can't abstain from voting, but better to fix it in a proper way." So, you don't want with a pool and with a protocol that has, in upwards of like 1 billion, I think, is locked in Curve at this point. You don't want to, rely on a guy saying, "Oh, I can abstain from voting," right? Oops. Yeah, exactly. So. One of the other things that was pointed out as far as DAO governance is concerned, and I definitely want to get your guys' thoughts in the chat, because this part of the discussion is literally the best part of the episode. I think when we can kind of like riff on different thoughts, maybe that we're just having for the first time, and that's the good stuff. So I want to get this stuff from you too, guys. I remember hearing, God, I'm blanking his name right now. Polychain Capital. Who am I thinking of? Guys, anyways, I'm really blanking on my man's name here. But Olaf. So Olaf was on a panel, and he was talking about chain acquisitions. And that was really kind of weird at the time. To talk about chain acquisitions, definitely like not from like a decentralized standpoint. Like that sounds very centralized. It sounds like kind of old world financial plays there. But chain acquisitions can happen in governance too. And if you don't have, the right setup, or your community's not centralized, your community lacks kind of the voting or has voter apathy and kind of lacks the will to go out there and vote and make their protocol decentralized. What about maybe let's talk about Lend. Let's throw out hypotheticals, right? Lend acquires a majority of the Curve tokens or the governance tokens, and then starts to kind of if there was no founder that came in and kind of rebounded and reacted and took control. What if Lend could kind of take control of Curve via these governance wars? So you have this setup where if you own a certain amount of tokens, you own what's happening on the network. That's where these governance wars discussions come in. That would be really, really interesting. Yeah,
that's crazy. Like mergers or acquisitions, or like taken over by, using the governance token. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, I guess it could be possible. But it would be interesting to see, who's gonna fire the first shot, kind of, and put this to the test. Curve, man, just in general, Curve just it wasn't able to catch a break, basically. Like they had their like contract release with the community member. People didn't know if it was real or not, and then it started trading, went to $50. Now it's trading $3. Like it's just going crazy. Curve has a lot of things to deal with on their end at the moment. So like this is something that they definitely did not want to encounter, but it is what it is. And I guess, they'll have to sort this out come out on top.
I think Fidel makes a good point though, right? Like going back to his comment, vote locking hasn't started. What'll happen is, because only 6% of the votes have actually been cast, certainly the man, Igorov, has a ton of votes, but as more votes get locked based on, rewards coming from vote locking, that percentage will decrease, and we'll maybe get like a better look at what Curve governance looks like. But what are some, I don't know, I don't mean to like throw this out here, guys, but what are some other issues that you kind of see arising with decentralized governance? Obviously, we've seen Igorov now kind of come in and take control of the network. These aren't things that are new. I know DPoS had that issue where exchanges controlled a majority. I know EOS had that stuff where it was like, okay, it had the Bitcoin issue where you're kind of dealing with maybe a decentralized system, but in reality, geographically, a lot of the places that were controlling the network were like hours away from each other, where you can kind of coordinate off chain and kind of like take control of the network, almost like in a cartel like system. So I know that's been thrown out. We're talking everything governance, guys. It looks like Adriana's here. What's up, Adriana? Nice to see you here today. We've got Kieran talking governance. we're talking governance. So I don't know, man. What do you make of this whole discussion here?
That whole topic about governance is huge. We've been talking about it for some time, and like going back with Adriana definitely is familiar with that on the
True.
EOS side. So it's interesting. For DeFi, I feel like DeFi, even though we've had so much experience in proof of stake setup, right? Where we thought that, all right, the industry kind of learned the overall how the governance is and what are some of the side effects and certain issues in place. But here, like, DeFi is coming out and they're like, boom, we're just starting from scratch, like, and they're just encountering these issues now, while like the other networks that were dealing with the governance for some time, they already have experience and they've already dealt with a lot of these issues. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's I feel like they should have done more research in terms of, like, we have so much history of governance being done, even though it's not perfect, right? And there's a lot of issues still. But like starting at like kind of the bottom and having these issues is kind of mature, considering how overall the industry has progressed already in that sector. Right?
It's funny that a lot of people use like different features within DeFi and they say, hey, look, this is the first time we're doing this. Or like they think it's like some novel thing to have staking and yield rewards. Like that's been in existence for a long time, but a lot of people are saying DeFi yield farming and using that as a feature on maybe in NFTs and things like that. Was like, yield farming's been around for a long time. But DeFi definitely has its issues with governance, but DPoS has gone through it. So it's just interesting to see. Hopefully people learn from all of these experiments. So Adriana is kind of giving us her 2 cents here. She's saying we just haven't figured out governance yet. Each one of these is another step in learning what does and does not work. I honestly think private networks will be the winners. You also have semi-private public like Wax. Yeah, I know Wax initially kind of was created out of that fork of EOS. There were definitely different reasons for doing so. I think the team obviously probably had their own incentives to do so, but the governance was definitely one of those. So 100% a complex issue. So maybe we don't go down fully in that rabbit hole. We're about at an hour in, so we appreciate everybody kind of stopping by. If anybody had any more comments on governance, I know Adriana's kind of okay. So she's saying that seems like a promising model, especially when first launching a product. Yeah. I think Wax definitely has done a good job with their guilds and kind of incentivizing people to take part. So. Yeah, guys, we'll touch on DAO governance a little bit more here, and then we'll make our way into maybe Ivan getting lit up here, some influencers getting lit up. But any final thoughts on kind of Curve and the DeFi model kind of before we move on here?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall the platform itself is going to be fine. They'll just have to get through it. Adriana mentioned, in terms of the that setup, which is a kind of hybrid, like private, public. Those are the good ways of setting it up. Going back to what you've mentioned, like starting out kind of a little bit centralized and then moving towards decentralization, not going full decentralization, is definitely kind of the route right now. That's the industry has learned. We'll see Curve kind of drama for a bit, but then eventually I think things will quiet down and get back to normal. So obviously these guys are pretty big in DeFi space. The number 3 as far as the locked value goes. The interesting part is going to be really that I'm afraid of is just some of these others that might be smaller, have the smaller locked amount, might be target for exploitation. That seems to be showing up quite often. Like there was a fork of Wi-Fi, which is FYV, I believe. They're having some issues where the pool was exploited, so it's like that seems to be something that's coming up, and that's going to continue to happen until like things get better, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And it makes sense, I think, to again point out that a lot of these protocols, especially when they're smaller and they have less value and less volume and less liquidity within their platform, it's like you have to be at a centralized point, or else you're just going to get completely taken over. We've got Adriana donating us $2. Adriana, Thank you so much. All the money you guys are donating via the chat, we're trying to reinvest in Layer 1 and provide better products and kind of do hiring on that side from like a production standpoint and things like that. So we appreciate all the donations that we're getting in as we go forward, man. You guys are crazy for your support. Thank you so much. So we've got a ton of other things to talk about here. We've got Ivan. So this came through early in the day, and we've got this could only happen on like 4chan and Reddit, but Ivan basically is getting called out here, and I'm going to show some of the links here. So everybody knows Ivan on Tech. Ivan's probably like one of the biggest influencer channels within crypto. He does call out like different altcoins. He like has his newsletter that I guess he charges $2,500 a month. I don't know if that's a yearly subscription or a monthly subscription, and I'll go basically on this guy's comment, but take it with a grain of salt here. We have various comments, and it says it looks like Ivan had launched kind of a new series where he's launching altcoin secrets. That's part of his newsletter that, again, is $2,500, and in return for that, what you would get is like early access to some of the calls he was making. So he would then like give that to the subscribers before he would go on to his channel and kind of shill these tokens. Now that can kind of be up for discussion either way without this next point, but it looks like based on Etherscan and based on a couple different blockchain explorers, it looks like, and I'm quoting here directly from Ivan, he says, "I want to address this. Unfortunately, 7 people got access to the report before the release time due to a bug in our system. This is, of course, horrible. We have fixed the issue for next time. We always try to improve it and do our best. Sometimes we mess up like this. But we're conspiracy theorists on this channel. You know what's going on here. If you had to put on your black hat here, what actually happened was people were loading up before he was making the calls, even to his subscribers. What do you think?"
The front running group, that's classic, you know. Yeah, you know, it's crazy. Like, you can kind of even relate to, like, crypto is so different, right? In terms of like trading, right? There's no like SEC type of stuff where it's like, well, you know, you can't front run and do stuff like that. Like, it's just a different animal. But like, you know, as far as the Ivan on Tech goes, obviously he has a pool, you know, as far as this community goes. So if that can translate into a given token like pumping, right? It's natural for him to set up a private group for where they basically load up on this stuff, right? So you know,
Kieran says the private calls group.
yeah, exactly.
the double private.
The 2x private. You know?
It's you got to go deep down that rabbit hole to be the first.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I understand he's getting blasted. He's also been kind of ramping up the marketing. Like, you know, I would be getting commercials on Ivan when I watch like Layer 1 videos all the time, right? And you know, he always talks about, oh, do you want to find the next, like, you know, like super.
Can you do a good Ivan? Can you do a good no?
No,
you don't have that like Swedish that
no.
No.
No, but yeah, but I met the guy actually. So I met him in Munich back in the day. Actually, I met him with Gall. Which you know, there's a fun story behind that. But anyway, yeah, we talked with Ivan. We met him. Yeah, it seems to be a cool dude. But yeah, he's getting ripped apart right now. But like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like these tokens. It's like it comes down to this question where it's like, well, if he's not gonna do it, then somebody else will do it, right?
True.
And it's gonna happen anyway, right? So, so it's like, well, okay, you know, so what the hell are you gonna do? This guy is just capturing the market, you know.
And he does it in a good way. He's a great entertainer. I think I've never met the guy in person, and we kind of talked about even bringing this up on the channel on Layer 1. And it was like almost too big of a story not to talk about. But we definitely, like, I want to be careful with what I say here because I'm not trying to shit on the dude. It's more kind of a broad industry, right? Like when you have a channel that's literally consistently posting 1000x gains and things like that. First of all, how does a channel like that, like what kind of simps follow that channel? I don't get how.
Yeah.
But like one of the reasons why we, and I wouldn't say it's one of the main reasons why we created Layer 1, but we certainly see the value in kind of bringing authentic crypto content where we're not trying to just shit on you all day. which is
Right.
basically what this story was saying, right? They used XFT as an example. They showed the Etherscan within the article, and they were like, listen, like 7 addresses bought up a shit ton of XFT 15 minutes before we made the call. Before it was, it's just, and there's another story in here too, and I don't want to get too personal again, but there was a story about a couple influencers. It looks like Ledger Prime, and I'm not going to bring this up. I don't really feel like it, but a couple influencers charging 10 to 30K to make videos of projects. Then they also buy the bags and dump on their viewers. So that's, this is an issue in our space. I wish people would kind of like look at maybe better crypto content, whether that's Layer 1 or what. It doesn't have to be us, but there's people that are not out there trying to like scam you and put 1000x on every thumbnail. We always make the joke of the guys sitting there like 1000. You're next. You're gonna own this Lambo next 1000x call. It's like, dude, how do these people have viewers? But I mean, I guess it's a free market. So if they know what they're doing and they get the viewership, I can't shit talk them too much. So
I was gonna mention like Gianna sent a message. Sometimes I think 2016 cycle created a bunch of really angry bag holders who went to the dark side, which is I think there's some valid points to that. I think there's probably people during 2017 cycle that made a lot of money doing that stuff, right? That is kind of like borderline or gray or like dark area, right? This time around, the people that were white hat, they're kind of moving over and they're like, listen, let me do this as well, because those guys didn't really get in trouble, doing what they were doing back in the day. So I think just with in general how we are in the bull market right now, that does attract a lot of people to start exploiting these type of things like front running newsletters, which tokens are going to pump and dump groups. All of those things are going to be introduced more and more during the bull market than when we're kind of stagnant, moving sideways. So that's just the name of the game for now.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys kind of commenting along with us. There's definitely a ton of good stuff to get to here. We Adriana saying TikTok people. Sahil saying sorry, Yoda. I don't know what is that referring to there. Is that a comment?
Side,
oh, got it. Okay, guys. Yeah, you guys are above my head today. But guys, we've pretty much made it out of discussion here. If there's something you want us to touch on before we move on here, we've got Polkadot, we've got a little bit from EOS, as well as DeFi and NFTs that we'll get to throughout the episode. This has been a good one. I think let me check what we're at right now. So we're at an hour and 11 minutes. We'll probably go for, I would say, 20 more minutes, and we'll kind of get through all of this news here. But as far as when we go along and kind of break down these chains, anything you guys want to touch on, hit it in the comments, and we'll get to it, man, for sure. So appreciate it. Anything before we move to Polkadot, Dima?
No, I'm just saying. I guess a quick comment just about the last tweet you mentioned. Dumping on communities. That's like getting into that McAfee zone. Where it's like he was getting a lot of tokens from these new projects and then shilling them on Twitter and then dumping. That's obviously very toxic. So I'm definitely not supportive of that.
Yeah, we're trying to do things a little bit differently here. So we appreciate everybody that's kind of noticing authentic content, and you guys are definitely kind of powering what we're doing. So definitely appreciate that, and appreciate all the authentic people we have. Not nearly as authentic as voice, right? Like we need to have some sign up mechanic where we can I don't know what I'm talking about here. So anyways, guys, we're going to move on to Polkadot here. We've got Polkadot announcing their Parachain slot setup. So basically what you're having here, guys, is there's going to be dApps that are going to bid on being able to launch a Parachain. So we've seen a couple Parachains launch. We've got we got Edgeware, we have OM, a couple others that are within that ecosystem already, and we're seeing more and more as Polkadot goes live. But basically what's going to happen is there's going to be a dApp auction. They're calling it candle auctions for spaces within the Polkadot ecosystem. And they've kind of reserved different, I guess what they called like primary slots or essential slots. So for I guess for like the vitality of the Polkadot ecosystem, they're kind of having those live outside the realm of these little candle auctions that are going to happen. But basically, guys, you're going to have a certain amount of obviously capital, and you're going to be voting or you're going to be kind of like buying renewable slots within the Polkadot chain ecosystem, and those are going to be renewed. And we see that here. Slot durations are capped at 2 years and dividing into 6-month periods. Parachains may lease a slot for any contiguous chain of the slot duration. Parachains may lease more than one slot over time, meaning that they could extend their lease to Polkadot past a 2-year slot duration simply by leasing a contiguous slot. So I guess once you win an actual slot, there's no... initially when this first came out, I was like, wait, you can like buy a slot, get it for 2 years, and then you can get outbid 2 years later and lose everything within your ecosystem. But I guess you can bid once you have that slot, you can bid on a what they're calling a contiguous slot. Essentially what they're doing, guys, is having auctions to launch a dApp on Polkadot, and that's to cap the amount of dApps, at least initially. And they're going to continuously have more supply of those slots, but at first there's going to be a bidding system to even build a parachain on Polkadot. Again, I mentioned Edgeware, I mentioned MonsterDAO is another one. It's definitely a narrative we're following. I think Polkadot is kind of this, it has the community zeitgeist, it has this narrative pushing it forward. So maybe you buy into DOT, or maybe you look into these different parachains that are launching or potentially bidding to be launched on Polkadot, and that might, have some value from an investor side standpoint. What do you make of this article, though? And I'll go through it a little bit more before we move on, but what do you make of them launching these parachain slots and having a candle auction bid for them?
Yeah, I mean, the way they structure it is it's basically just geared towards speculators in getting in, because you have the scarcity exclusivity factor. Polkadot is obviously very hot. Everybody likes to follow them, and they're doing a lot of great stuff in terms of technology, right? So by doing this exclusivity, by having limited amount, right, in that sense of that the value kind of goes up there, it's very interesting the way it's structured. So it kind of reminds me of like previous big companies, like for example, I know it's not probably the best example, but like for example, when Facebook came out, right, they had a limited amount of people that could get into Facebook. It was only college kids. It was very exclusive, right, and then it opened up to everybody. So it's very exclusive setup there. But for Polkadot, if they have a limited amount of slots with scarcity in terms of price, then that's that can stir up a lot of speculators to get in. Which the next question is is it good or bad, right? Speculators, a certain balance of speculation is good, but if the market gets cornered, remember what happened with EOS with RAM, right? So stuff like that. It's this speculators ran over RAM, and then it was too expensive, right, to run things. So it's gonna be an interesting experiment to see how that's gonna be deployed. But obviously Polkadot, I'm a big fan of what they're doing, and I think should be pretty good.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different FAQs that we'll go through here. Polkadot also. I can't hear you. Oh, sorry guys. We had a bunch of different things as far as FAQs kind of come through in the Polkadot wiki here that we'll go through, but there was a redenomination as well that I want to get to. So the Polkadot token redenominated. I know there was a governance vote for this early on. So the supply of Polkadot went down, I believe, and there was a redenomination, I guess is probably the right word. But it was funny because there was a lot of initial listings that happened before the team wanted it to. So there was all these initial listings on maybe, and then they were picked up by the likes of CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. And when they did this redenomination and the price ended up dropping, so I guess the redenomination would then be that there was more DOT, but the price ended up falling 90%, quote unquote, during this redenomination. And if you didn't know about it, you saw 90% drop on CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, and people were freaking their shit out because they got that. So definitely something to look at going forward. But as far as the Polkadot ecosystem, man, I know we kind of have looked into Mantra DAO a little bit, which is basically like working on tools to kind of build DAOs and things like that, and DAO governance. What do you make of the Polkadot ecosystem and kind of the narrative being played out there right now?
Yeah, it's hot, man. You know, Polkadot is that hot chick at a dance, right? And there's like, it's attracting a lot of interesting stuff that's being built on it. You know, Mantra DAO is one of them. The reason why it's so hot right now, obviously, is because they're offering a pretty good APR. You know, and that's really what the yield chasing guys care about, right? So you have that becoming quickly available, and people are piling into it. So and it's obviously going to be, those yields are obviously temporary, right? They're not going to be sustainable. So we see that time to time it's coming through, where you have new protocol and new setup that comes out, boom, they have a really good APR that lasts for some time, then it drops, and then the new platform gets released, and then we have another APR, and then you have these systems that just automatically switch to new one, and that's it. They just hop around, right?
Yeah.
So we have yet to see kind of a successful sticking point, right? But OM is nice, it's obviously going with Polkadot. So this I didn't find just how many people are getting into it. I was trying to find the Ivan on Tech guys from private group, scaling in. But if I see, wallets that are like dropping like, 600, 650 ETH worth of it in increments on this, right, at current market prices, like these guys probably know something, right? So that's something to keep on the radar.
Yeah, 100%. And as we see Polkadot kind of being built out, I think it's going to be more and more a part of Layer1Live, which I'm excited for. Obviously, guys, at Layer 1, we're covering a broad breadth of the entire cryptoverse. So it's tough to be an actual expert as opposed to kind of, hey, we're launching a Polkadot podcast. We would be, in depth in being able to kind of from day one kind of go into it. So as Polkadot becomes more and more essential and kind of a bigger part of the crypto universe, we'll likely just add it to Layer 1 consistently over time and have a weekly segment on it. So I'm excited to see the Polkadot ecosystem kind of being brought to life essentially. But I think the major portion of this is probably like following the community narrative here, and I think most people are excited about the Parachains. Most people are excited about Polkadot. So kind of following when those chains launch is going to be good from an investor standpoint. Obviously, this is an investment advice. We say that shit all the time, but you're going to want to be following the Polkadot ecosystem if you're kind of a trader and investor. So again, I think the last point I want to point out as far as Polkadot's concerned is they're going to have specific slots that are going to be, I think, deemed I don't know how to say this, but vital to the ecosystem. So they're not going to have to renew and bid. And if a Parachain can get that title, that's going to be one that you want to look out for as well. Because they're going to be OG, they're going to be locked in, they're going to be grandfathered in. I think Edgeware has been noted a couple times, which has obviously been a Polkadot Parachain kind of team for a long time. So that will be interesting to see. Guys, we will bring you all the Polkadot news each week. I think it's getting to the point where we can talk about it each week. And have actual news as opposed to kind of going over the same crap. So launch of the Parachains, the redenomination kind of shook up CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, and then next week we'll see what comes out of the Polkadot ecosystem. There'll be a major stay as far as crypto is concerned. So
it's gonna be exciting. What do we got next? EOS.
Yeah, we got some EOS news. This is kind of like on the fringes of what even would be called EOS news. So we've got Metal acquiring Blocks.io or the team behind it. So I'm going to pull the article up here and we'll talk about it. Obviously, Syed has created Blocks.io. They also created the collectibles, if you've seen that on Wax and you've been part of the NFTs. But it looks like the Metal team has acquired these guys and Syed. So it definitely, and these guys are the same ones that acquired Lynx, kind of the Lynx chain. So it's basically a parachain, or what you call on EOS, a sister chain, acquiring one of the major developers' products, which again, I think what happens is Syed now comes into the Metal team. and is able to work within that ecosystem. So basically what Metal's saying here is, look, we've got a great developer here. We've got a great team. They've built really cool tools like Blocks.io, which is that blockchain explorer, and Collectibles, which is that NFT marketplace. And let's have that dev team build within Metal, and we'll see what we can do from that perspective. What do you think about this piece of news from the EOS ecosystem?
A lot of parachains, man. What's up with that? I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion about this because I don't follow EOS as much as you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I was gonna mention actually how you hit me up the one time and you're like, "Hey man, I got this really cool card. Let me send it over to you." So I finally did check out the card. And I wish I could show it in the stream, but it's like this bear and like the market down, it was pretty cool. I thought it was worth millions of dollars, but it was like only like $2.
Listen, if you were shrewd with that, you could have gotten probably like $15-$17 for that cog. Come on, that's a low mint cog. I'm gonna talk directly from this article here. We've got some quotes from the actual Metal team. Again, most of this acquisition I think is acquiring Syed, who is obviously a shooting star within the crypto community right now. It says Syed brings another world-class developer to the Metal platform. It looks like with the Lynx, Blocks, and Metal teams all focused together on the prize of consumer-friendly crypto payment platforms, we have critical escape velocity to bring easy-to-use crypto to mainstream. So, again, some good news here. Obviously, we like seeing activity within the EOS ecosystem, so that is a good piece of news. So we'll get on to DeFi, guys, and then we'll cap it off with NFTs. Appreciate you guys following along here. This has been a great episode, man, and we appreciate you guys' support all the way around. Adriana, thanks again for the donation. That was awesome.
Yeah, when did that news come out for Proton? I'm just looking at their price.
Yeah, it looks like the 21st of August. So today's the 24th, and it was the 21st when they made the announcement that Metal had acquired Blocks.
That's interesting. Yeah, because the token price really didn't reflect that, in terms of like pumping. It pumped like maybe a week before that, and then it's been kind of chilling here. So
yeah, I don't know if it's like the largest piece of news that ever existed, but definitely wanna keep people updated.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So let's hit DeFi and let's move into NFTs, and then we'll move.
Yep. So hopping into DeFi. I love this headline. It's like Ethereum killer Avalanche nears the mainnet with Everest release.
I have got to stop you here. It's Avalanche.
Oh, okay.
you said it during. I think you said it during an interview. Right. I was like Avalanche. It's Avalanche.
Avalanche.
You know how like I say Zaliqua?
Yeah.
That's your Zaliqua.
Yeah, there it is. Everest. You ever rest.
Okay.
Anyway,
we're going crazy here on today's Layer 1. Here we go.
So anyway, so basically Ava Labs, right, is launching their blockchain protocol. That's these are the guys who picked up 4.25 million in public token sale. They're doing this to address the issues obviously with Ethereum. And the clogging up of the network fees, all that good stuff that we always talk about. So they're finalizing testing right now. They're getting ready for this mainnet launch. And really, what it kind of dictates to me and what shows is that all of these guys. We talked to Stanley, we talked to all these figures in DeFi. And they're very open about, hey, listen, there is a huge issue, right? There is a huge issue. If the volatility hits to the downside, if the unwinding happens, the Ethereum network is going to get clogged up, and all these things that can, happen, that can translate in the spot market and escalate overall the downward movement. Imagine, being, let's say, a liquidity provider, like being in a pool, right? And you're not able to pull that liquidity because of the Ethereum network being clogged up. Or if you can't pay the gas fees because they're so ridiculous, right? Then also, how about the people that are in the positions, right? They can't get out of their tokens because of the gas fees and clogged up network. So, but it's interesting that these guys are actually, creating these solutions before we hit like an issue that we've experienced in March, Black Thursday, where we saw a taste of like how things can escalate and really impact the market in a negative way. So it's really nice to see the DeFi guys are starting to roll out these solutions before we hit like this crisis mode,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then everybody's like, oh wait a minute, like this was an issue, but I don't know what's gonna happen, kind of deal. So I really like that they're rolling out multiple solutions. I know Polkadot obviously is going to be doing pretty well in fixing that as well. But it also brings up another point too. It's just like, well, there's been all these blockchains and networks that are set up that do have scalability, that do have certain issues, like EOS guys, right? Dan Lerner came out saying, hey, listen, EOS was actually built to work in DeFi, like very well. But then we often see like these guys are coming out with their own
Mm.
their own network, their own blockchain, their own like setup, right? Rather than using the existing one, which is something interesting to keep note of, because for those that protocols that are still waiting for the devs to come to build on their chain because it's the fastest, the strongest, and all the buzzwords, you might have to wait for a long time because we have these guys that are just making their own. They already have the community, that's using the platform. They have the users, right? Boom, they create their own solution that's going to be easily integrated, rather than kind of working with some of the networks that can handle this stuff, but you know they're not seeing the development on their end. So
Yeah, and I also think like there's going to be like some tie into they mentioned VM a couple times, so having that composability with
yeah,
Ethereum and with Ethereum developers or and kind of code that they're used to, and being able to do that developers are used to is definitely going to help. I think another portion to point out is they raised 42 mil, it looks like, in ICO,
yep,
and also 12 million or and again I'm kind of taking general numbers here, but basically they have a $60 million war chest, which is not and taking advantage of the zeitgeist around DeFi and kind of the community narrative, as we've talked about multiple times. I think that's what Ava's being able to do. They're saying, hey, listen, we have this decentralized finance protocol. That's kind of how they even talked about it when they came on our podcast. That's how John talked about it, and they've taken advantage and they have a $60 million war chest. That's going to be important when you're trying to grow an ecosystem and incentivize developers. So yeah, man. I mean, I looked at AVEX, which is their governance token on CoinGecko. It looks like they had an initial drop off in late July and have since kind of grown 82% over that time period since late July to now. So it'll be interesting to see as we go into mainnet launch what that offers. But good to see a $60 million war chest if you're an AVEX holder. They also mentioned in this article that there's going to be an NFT marketplace that they're looking to launch as well. So
yeah,
and a tool for that. So it looks like they're bringing multiple kind of sectors onto this protocol. So Ava
that's
Labs, what's up?
yeah, no, that's going to be super exciting. Avalanche is obviously killing it, and they're pushing the limits, right? So it's interesting to see also when we talked about their flash loan setup. First when it came out, it was kind of like, I don't know, I don't know how that's gonna really, perform. Excuse me. But now we can see actually like flash loan sector for them is like killing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were surprised themselves to see how much interest it has been in that, and it's all about capitalizing on arbitrage. There's so much arbitrage available in DeFi right now that flash loans just make it even better in terms of capitalizing on those arbs. So yeah, these guys are on the front lines, on the cutting edge DeFi technology,
Mm.
to make sure they're ahead. And it is it's very competitive sector, right? We've talked about how much money is being thrown at this sector, right? And sometimes we had people say maybe we shouldn't have that much money thrown. It's way too much money has been thrown to DeFi right now. So which means that if you do have money that's been thrown at it, the expectations for the delivery of the product and the performance of the product has to be constantly going up, right? You
Mm.
can't have stagnant technology and and money being thrown at it. So especially how competitive DeFi is, that's going to continue to happen. They're going to roll out these experiments and continue to move forward. So this should be super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it like ad nauseum about the DeFi sector and where it is on Ethereum right now, and the fact that people need to move over, and Ethereum developers and people that have founded these protocols on Ethereum saying there's too much composability here, I cannot leave, and we've seen like minuscule amounts of people kind of say, hey, I'm going to move directly on over to this new protocol. NFTs, I think, are something to be talked about when we're talking about Ethereum, because they have those microtransactions and they just get pushed out essentially. But I think most of DeFi right now is okay where they're at with the usability there. Obviously, there are days where it's just like almost unusable, where it becomes like very expensive. But we are at the point where NFTs and other small microtransaction protocols or I mean platforms are in that space where they're like, God damn, I need to do something. So Kieran's in the chat asking, sir, is EOS strong? He's also asking about 1inch token. Guy, I don't name these things, okay? I don't name these forks. These are, and that's a Mooney Swap team there that you can talk about. He's putting all the buzzwords, liquidity mining. Before we get too far down that way, we're gonna continue to talk about DeFi here. One thing I do want to point out, and maybe Adriana can point out if she's still here, is Kieran's asking about, sir, is EOS strong? EOS is building out, man. And one thing I have talked about on this channel before, but I'd love to bring up one more time, is that there's more development happening within the EOS ecosystem. If you look at Wax, and you look at Metal, and you look at all and Talos and all of these different kind of forks that are happening, I really think that needs to be put into account when you judge the EOS ecosystem. I wish they had baked in some way for the early EOS holders, or just EOS holders in general, to benefit from a fork in the code that you have with Wax. Basically, Wax was able to say, we're creating a whole new chain, and it felt like almost where Wax is, although it is looked at as a sister chain of EOS, I think there could be a little bit, I wish there was a little bit of flow back to the mothership that is EOS, the EOS main chain. So that's definitely my take there. We one thing we like to do on Layer 1 is have a large crypto audience that spans multiple chains. So we like to have the discussions of what's happening on the different chains as non-biased as possible. So I think Adrian is saying here that I think EOS is stronger than most people think. Most people forget these parachains only have one pair. So yeah, definitely an interesting discussion there that we can get to. But I do think EOS is on its way and is continuously building more than people think. So great comments there. Let's get into the rest of DeFi before we hit NFTs.
Yeah, so the next piece of news here is basically the Tether is can be used with OMG Network. So basically kind of covers the area of transaction fees are very small by using OMG Network, where Tether can be transferred, and the speed of the transactions is very fast. Great, all this buzzy stuff that everybody loves, and we've seen like Tether use different networks. Tron, for example, works really well, surprisingly, like to transfer Tether. Like, I love, like, you can transfer Tether from different exchanges using Tron network for like very cheap. It's very fast. So it's just another one that's coming online, OMG network, that's going to be used. I'm not sure how much of that is going to be used. I couldn't find any numbers in terms of the volume it gets pushed through OMG as far as the Tether goes, but I wouldn't say that OMG is going to be the primary network to transfer Tether. Bitfinex is going to offer the ability for you to use OMG network to transfer Tether. Great, just like other networks that have been integrated with Tether. So it's interesting to see. It's obviously gives you an alternative to transfer the value of Tether quicker and cheaper. And mobility of funds is is very important. The velocity of money moving around within the network without clogging up the networks is what we're looking for. If you need to transfer, let's say, margin to a specific exchange or a specific position, you can do that faster, cheaper, with the more guys that are coming online, like OMG Network, that will be able to transfer this value quickly. So it's all of these alternatives that are great for transferring the value if, let's say one of the networks gets too expensive, congested, and so on. So, props to that. OMG did have a pretty good run up. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna look at CoinGecko here and bring up the price action since that announcement was made. We have heard a little bit of news specifically for USDT on EOS. EOS Finex is gearing up kind of for a launch there, as well as Brendan and Dan talking about EOSDT, or I'm sorry, USDT on EOS a ton. So we'll see what happens there. Let me pull up OMG for everybody at home before we move on to the next one. Yeah, it looks like it's 11% down on the day, but it did see a massive increase in like a very short window. So it looks like 250% over the past 14 days. So yeah, definitely a good move on their part and a good price action move in total.
yeah, absolutely. So, and then to wrap up DeFi, so this big piece of news that came through from Synthetics, Kane laid out so basically the platform that we've talked about back in November or December 2019, where he talked about how Synthetics was working on actually creating decentralized BitMEX, basically. So you can trade perpetual swaps, futures in a decentralized platform rather than having like a centralized BitMEX platform. So that was very interesting. He did put out this primer. It's kind of lengthy, but I did read it, and it's very interesting, the mechanics behind it, how they're going to be rolling this out. Because the thing is with futures exchanges like BitMEX, for example, in order for them to stabilize the books of longs and shorts, they do have a funding rate in place that kind of supposed to balance the books and not one side gets skewed. In decentralized fashion here for aesthetics, they're going to be utilizing something where if the books are skewed, let's say there's 100K long and there's 50K short. So for somebody who's going to open the short position, they're not going to be charged any fees because they're contributing to balancing the books. But those that are opening the long position, they will be charged a fee because the books are skewed. So that was interesting setup there. They're looking to start out with 25x as max leverage from as they start. They want to start out slow and see how things go, and eventually then they talk about how they're gonna do liquidity 2 launch, which will probably increase the leverage that people can use. But I like the fact that they're starting a little bit smaller there. My question is, about this, it really comes down to the fact that we've been basically beaten to death on this podcast is gas fees, network congestion, right? It's great, decentralized, platform, that's cool. But hey, listen, if you want to set up an order, if you want to set up a limit order, you have to pay gas fees every time you get that set up. There's also interesting setup in terms of how the liquidations happen, because the thing is, the liquidity providers on the other hand that have to liquidate the positions, they have to liquidate the positions as quickly as possible. If the market is moving quickly, then they don't want to wait and liquidate this position later on, right? If the position is going to continue to go against them. So the interesting part about this is that if liquidators are having a hard time with the congested network, with the fees that are available there, the liquidations can get stuck in this congestion, and that might be an issue where liquidations are going to struggle to go through, especially if you're using leveraged products like that. So it's going to be an interesting experiment. They obviously worked on it a lot. This is a huge project for them, and everything kind of in theory should work fine, except my question about the potential risks of network congestions and certain abnormal market volatility that we might get, that can maybe disrupt some of the things. But by that time, maybe they should have a fix for it.
Yeah, it looks like I'm reading directly from the conclusion here. It says the upcoming migration to Chainlink, as well as a number of other improvements should ensure the initial launch of leverage on Synthetics is as smooth as possible. So, I guess my question would be, as we wrap a bow on DeFi here, Is this launch of synthetic futures, does that allow for different types of assets that they don't have on the platform right now to be accessed from like people like traders on their platform, or is this just an additional feature that launches with the assets that they already have on platform?
No, it's additional. Yeah.
Okay, so because I know like initially what interests me from like an uninitiated perspective and not obviously having the technical trader experience that you have was like the idea of having synthetic like traditional stocks on that platform. Is that kind of the addition that we're seeing here with synthetic futures?
Kind of, I would say.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they're gonna be very careful with rolling out like additional products with the new platform, because it's like, it's kind of offering 25x leverage on the new platform that they have. I doubt they're gonna experiment a lot in terms of, bringing in new assets onto it quickly. So
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, guys, we're pretty much through the entire episode. We've got NFTs to touch on really quick. I'm going to touch on 3 different news pieces here. Scott's in the chat. He's back. So he's saying, yo. So we've gone long enough where Scott could go and then come back. And that's how you know that we're giving you a good episode, Scott. All right. So this is what we're doing here. I've got NFTs that we'll finish up with. I have a news from Animoca Brands. So Animoca Brands, we had Yatsui on the podcast, and it looks like one of their, I wouldn't call it subsidiaries, but definitely one of the games that they're backing heavily, this F1 Delta, which is basically a racing game, kind of a obviously Formula One racing game that they're going to launch with different NFTs and things like that. They're launching a REVV token to go along with it. So there'll be rewards for racing. There'll be rewards for setting specific times as far as like a trial run. Maybe if you beat the best time on the trial run, you get a specific award. This REVV token is going to be most of the rewards that are going to the community. So definitely interesting to see that. One of the really cool features, I don't know if you caught it when you were reading this article, Dimitri, but I guess if you own a non-fungible token that represents the track that people are racing on, you get a percentage of whatever they're spending if they say lose.
What?
So, and I'm going to read directly here. It says, earning REV isn't limited to gameplay. Players who own a non-fungible token of a racing track will earn a cut of all REV spent to race on that particular track.
Oh, wow.
Which was an interesting debate that we had, I think, like a year ago in-house. We were talking about like different games where you can like own the arena as opposed to owning the actual game assets where they were fighting. So this is kind of the first in practice situation where I've seen somebody come out and say, hey, if you own the actual racetrack, you get the rewards that other people are using. And it's an interesting portion. Like you could break this out and talk about Sandbox and Decentraland, where somebody has to, within the land asset that you own, someone's playing like a mini game, they put in like a token or what have you, just like you would see in a regular arcade, and you're getting a percentage of whatever they're, winning or losing. I don't know how that works as far as what if a ton of people are winning and then you have to pay, pay they like go into your wallet and are taking ETH out of your wallet. But yeah, definitely good to see from an Animoca brand standpoint. I mean, more NFT games the better, especially from Animoca. We had Yatsui on the podcast, like I said, so they know what they're doing from this standpoint. So good to see them kind of launching this REV token and in-game asset. And we'll see. I don't think the platform's live yet, so we don't really have something tangible to look at. But that one specific piece where you could own the racetrack and actually get rewards from people playing on that track, really interesting.
Yeah, man, that's I'm waiting for these when lunch, waiting for these to see an effect. We've talked about a little bit, just kind of Decentraland and all that stuff, right? It's happening, those metaverses. Like, when are they gonna start popping off? Have big events like that.
Yeah, guys, if you're playing a drinking game at home, when Dimitri mentions Kane and when Dimitri mentions a virtual event, that's when you need to take your shot.
Yeah.
So exactly. You've been banging at the door for this
fees,
for a while.
Probably another one,
Ethereum gas fees, 100%. So yeah, definitely want to see more virtual events, and I can't wait for the Sandbox to launch. But I think what I'm going to do is I might be a convert. I might be a convert to Decentraland. At first, I really like crypto voxels. Now, it looks like a lot of stuff's happening within Decentraland. Okay, for the most important story of the day, We have Paris Hilton doing a drawing, and it's selling for $17,000. So Cryptograph, if you guys didn't know, what they try to do is get all of these celebrities. I think right now the art that is being sold is from like Ashton Kutcher. So you kind of like get the idea of what's going on here. They've had Vitalik on here. So they basically get them to sit down, do a drawing for like 30 minutes, and then try to sell that via auction. And then obviously the celebrity gets a portion of that. So this Paris Hilton drawing went for $17,000. It looks like Vitalik's went for, let me see, 77 ETH, which I don't know what it was at the price that happened. But yeah, it's this little cat. I'll go onto the Cryptograph website here and see if we can't like look at their layout. Yeah, you see Ashton Kutcher there. Yeah. So
that's crazy. It would be really cool to do something like this where celebrities, maybe use like the proceeds or whatnot towards like charity or something,
100%. I love that idea. So that's a quick piece of news there. I think that there is a video online that shows like her actually like sitting down and doing this. So yeah, it's super interesting to see this stuff go forward. But yeah, there's not much depth to that interview or that.
What did Kutcher draw?
I don't know. I don't even know what Kutcher draw. Let me. I can pull that up since Dimitri's asking for it. But great idea for that company, by the way. Like they don't really have to do much of anything. They just go out and reach out to these celebrities, and it goes for. Yeah, it looks like there's a philanthropy aspect to this as well.
Oh, okay,
so
cool,
yeah,
cool.
Good stuff. I've got Ashley Green. I've got Danny Huston. There's a couple that are live right now, so they have like a live bid where it's showing like what the actual bid is. When does the auction close? The Ashton Kutcher might have already closed. So yeah, very breaking and important news we're bringing you guys here on Layer1Live. All right, the last piece of news here, guys. Chainmonsters, a game that's associated with Flow. So we had Flow on last week. Chainmonsters is essentially piggybacking off Pokemon and Zelda. It really has like a Pokemon feel to it. It launched on Steam. So their beta is being launched here on Steam. PC gamers can now play that. It's obviously, again, going to launch on Flow. The studio is called B-Side Games. But all the assets, hopefully, eventually, will be open and tradable on the Flow blockchain. The guys behind Dapper Labs, the team behind Flow is Dapper Labs. So yeah, good to see this new game that eventually will launch on Flow coming to Steam. I will definitely be checking this out. I cannot wait for more playable games like Dimitri's talking about with events. I can't wait for more like streamable and playable games to make their way onto the blockchain. Flow's a big part of that. So that is pretty much the news from the NFT side. Did you have anything else to touch on before we wrapped up here, man?
No, I think we covered everything pretty well. So for tomorrow, obviously Dimitri's desk. I'm gonna throw that in right away. Take a look at some volatility in the market. Take a look at some of the DeFi tokens. I know everybody's looking for that alpha there, so I'll keep you guys posted on that.
Yeah, when are you making your private group?
Yeah, well, I'm going to announce it privately.
Okay, sounds good. So if you're in the private Telegram community, you will get the notification that there will be a double private group. Exactly. And then eventually a triple private group, and who knows where that can lead. But guys, for those of you that stay till the end, we appreciate you so much for kind of sticking with us, man. And we know these are long episodes. You guys add so much to the conversation, though. When we can riff off what you guys are talking about, it's a much better episode. Like Dimitri said, we have the desk tomorrow. We've got NFT Live this week. We've got Zach Gall coming in from the DApp team, as well as Masari coming in at the end of the week. Yeah, guys, we're building at Layer 1. We have a ton of stuff. Keep an eye out for the token art bounty. So this token art bounty is essentially going to be for our LADZ token that we launched. I think we have about 10 or 11 actual like strong holders of LADZ right now. If you're not in the LADZ community, get in there. It's in the Telegram. If you're already in LADZ and you don't have a wallet, you need to sign up. Tryroll.com. We've been tracking it. We're working with James Duncan over at Collabland to have an automated tracker, automated leaderboard. But right now, you can see that LADZ leaderboard there in our channel. There's going to be a ton of ways you can earn. One of them is this token art bounty. So the LADZ token does not currently have like a unique image. It's basically like the logo for Layer 1. What we want is a really cool currency image like that you see on that you see on any currency. Obviously, you can use other personal tokens as an example. We're going to launch that article here today, and we're going to have the community, if they're artists, create a type of token art for LADZ that will show up on all the areas that a social token would show up on, that I don't have to mention here. So yeah, that'll be interesting. We cannot wait to kind of like launch that whole token situation. We will kind of give more information as far as that's concerned, as far as earning and things like that. But that will be the bounty event for this month. We appreciate all the LADZ that have contributed up to this point. We had 36, I believe, ish people join this past week. So that was crazy.
Yeah, and we got a couple of them right now in the waiting room. So the Telegram group fam is growing. So.
Yeah, and Kieran, I know Discord access, Discord update. Kieran, you're in Discord in the next 5 seconds. I promise you. We're taking it off live. You're getting into the Discord. We at a certain point, if you guys have enough LADZ, you can get access to this Discord. We'll have a variety of different channels within that Discord, so we can break this community out and really start to grow. Also, shout out again to Buffalo. Shout out again to Ronan, who've been adding to the community. If you guys have any way you want to add to Layer 1, please do. I guess the last shout out. Do we want to shout out guys in the channel? You want to do that? That participated this Layer1Live?
Who?
Everybody. All right, so I think the first one, obviously Adriano, we appreciate your donation again. Appreciate you talking about EOS. Appreciate you talking about governance. Sahil, we had Why Not. We had Brandon. Fidel himself was in here. Why Not was in here. Who else do we have? We had Daniel O. You got any before we log off here?
Cryptophagia. Looks like that's about it. Daniel O. Scott came by. So yeah, man, cool.
Awesome.
A lot of cool LADZ.
Yeah, definitely. For any of you guys that participated this Layer1Live, you'll get 50 LADZ for participating in the comments section. So thanks again, guys. Leave a like. We appreciate it, and it really helps like build the channel up as well as this episode. So if you're headed out here, please leave a like before you go. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel. You know what it is. We'll see you on Dimitri's desk.
Yep.
Have we figured out a way to log off here yet?
Till next time.
Till next time.